Have you noticed something strange about speaking English? You may know the words. You understand the grammar. But the moment you start speaking, your mind suddenly goes blank. It feels like everything you learn disappears in seconds. And the worst part is that you start believing the problem is your English. But what if the real problem has nothing to do with your English skills at all? Many learners think they cannot speak English because they lack vocabulary or grammar knowledge. They keep studying more rules, memorizing more words, and watching more lessons. Yet when it is time to speak, hesitation appears again. The mind slows down, sentences break, and confidence disappears. The truth is simple but surprising. In most cases, the issue is not language ability. The real reason is a hidden psychological barrier that almost every English learner experiences. Once you understand this barrier, speaking English becomes much easier than you think. The invisible pressure inside your mind. When most people try to speak English, they believe the challenge is vocabulary or grammar. They assume that if they learn more words and rules, speaking will automatically become easy. But something surprising happens. Even after learning a lot, many learners still hesitate when they start speaking. The moment you try to form a sentence, your brain starts analyzing every word. It checks pronunciation, grammar, and whether the sentence sounds correct. Instead of communicating naturally, your mind becomes an internal judge that evaluates everything you say. This constant self-checking creates pressure inside your mind. You are not just speaking anymore. You are performing. And when the brain feels that it is being judged, it becomes cautious and slow. At that moment, your thoughts begin to change. Questions quietly appear in your mind. What if I make a mistake? What if the other person notices my grammar error? What if my sentence sounds strange? Because of these thoughts, your brain enters a protection mode. Its goal is not communication anymore. Its goal is to prevent embarrassment. The brain would rather stay silent than risk saying something imperfect. That is why many learners experience the same frustrating situation. They know what they want to say in their mind, yet the words do not come out smoothly. Sentences break, pauses appear, and confidence suddenly drops. The interesting part is that this problem is not caused by a lack of English knowledge. It is caused by the fear of being judged while speaking. The mind becomes so focused on avoiding mistakes that it blocks natural expression. When communication turns into a test in your head, fluency becomes difficult. But once you understand that this pressure is psychological and not linguistic, everything begins to change. The hidden psychological reason. The real reason this pressure exists is something psychologists call self-monitoring overload. When you speak in your native language, your brain does not consciously check every word. Sentences flow automatically because your mind trusts the process. But when speaking English, many learners try to control every detail. They attempt to build the perfect sentence before even opening their mouth. Grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary choice, and sentence structure all start competing for attention at the same time. This creates a heavy mental load. Your brain is now doing several tasks simultaneously instead of focusing on one simple goal, which is communication. As a result, your thinking speed slows down and your speech becomes hesitant. Another psychological factor makes this situation stronger. Many learners attach their self-worth to their English performance. They feel that if they make mistakes, people may see them as less capable or less intelligent. Because of this belief, speaking English stops being a learning activity. It starts feeling like a test of your identity. And when identity is involved, the brain becomes extremely cautious. Imagine walking on a narrow path with people watching you carefully. You would naturally walk slower because you would not want to slip. The same thing happens when speaking English under self-judgment. Ironically, this carefulness creates the exact problem you are trying to avoid. The more you attempt to control every word, the less natural your speech becomes. Your sentences break because your brain is busy checking instead of expressing. Fluent speakers operate in a completely different way. They do not wait for perfect sentences. They focus on the message they want to deliver. Small mistakes happen, but communication continues. The important realization here is simple. Fluency does not come from eliminating mistakes first. Fluency comes from allowing the brain to speak before it begins judging itself. Once you understand this psychological pattern, you start seeing your hesitation differently. It is not a sign of weak English ability. It is simply your brain trying to protect you from embarrassment. And the moment you stop treating speaking as a performance, your mind begins to relax and your words start flowing more freely. The small shift that changes everything. Once you understand that hesitation comes from psychological pressure, the solution becomes surprisingly simple. The goal is not to eliminate mistakes first. The goal is to change the way your mind approaches speaking. Instead of trying to build the perfect sentence in your head, start focusing on expressing the idea. Communication is about delivering a message, not about performing flawless grammar. A powerful shift happens when you allow yourself to speak with simple sentences. Your brain feels less pressure because it no longer has to construct complex structures. When the mind feels relaxed, words begin to appear faster and more naturally. Another helpful change is to stop correcting yourself while speaking. Many learners interrupt their own sentences to fix grammar or pronunciation. This habit breaks the flow of communication and increases hesitation. Fluent speakers usually do the opposite. They finish their thought first and improve later if needed. Their focus stays on the conversation instead of constant self-evaluation. You can practice this mindset with a very simple exercise. Choose any daily topic and speak about it for 1 minute without stopping. Do not pause to fix grammar. Do not restart sentences. The only rule is to keep expressing your idea. At first your sentences may feel simple, and that is perfectly fine. Simplicity creates speed. Speed creates confidence. And confidence slowly removes the fear that was blocking you. When your brain realizes that speaking does not lead to embarrassment, it stops activating that protection mode. Gradually the hesitation disappears, and your natural thinking rhythm starts to connect with English. This small mental shift changes everything. Instead of fighting your mind while speaking, you begin working with it. And when your mind feels safe, fluency becomes a natural outcome rather than a forced effort. The identity shift that builds real confidence. The final transformation happens when you stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to speak English and start seeing yourself as someone who is becoming an English speaker. Many learners unknowingly carry a limiting identity in their mind. They say things like, "My English is weak," or "I am not good at speaking." Every time these thoughts repeat, the brain accepts them as truth and behaves according to that belief. Your actions always follow your identity. If you believe you are someone who struggles with English, your mind will hesitate before speaking. It will search for safety instead of expression. But when your identity begins to change, your behavior changes with it. Instead of thinking about mistakes, you begin thinking about communication. Speaking becomes a natural step instead of a risky action. You can start building this identity with a simple habit. Each day remind yourself that you are a learner who is actively becoming better at expressing ideas in English. The goal is progress, not perfection. When you practice speaking with this mindset, your brain slowly stops fearing mistakes. It understands that errors are part of the growth process and not a threat to your confidence. Over time, something powerful happens. The hesitation that once stopped you begins to fade. Your thoughts connect with English faster, and conversations start feeling smoother. Real confidence in speaking English is not created by knowing every grammar rule. It is created when your mind accepts a new identity. The moment you see yourself as a communicator rather than a perfectionist learner, your voice becomes stronger. And the English that was already inside you finally starts coming out with clarity and confidence. Speaking English is not only about vocabulary or grammar. In many cases, the real barrier exists inside the mind. When fear of judgment disappears, the words that were already in your mind begin to flow more naturally. The moment you stop treating speaking as a test and start treating it as communication, everything changes. Confidence grows, hesitation reduces, and your voice becomes clearer with every conversation. Remember this simple truth. Fluency does not come from being perfect. It comes from allowing yourself to express ideas freely and learning from every attempt. If this insight helped you see speaking differently, make sure to like the video. Comment below and tell me one situation where you feel nervous speaking English. Share this video with someone who understands English but still struggles to speak confidently. Subscribe to the channel for practical ideas that make speaking English easier. Turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next video in this learning series. Thank you for watching and investing your time in improving yourself. I truly appreciate your support, and I will see you in the next video.